C303 is making YouTube a new scene. Searching for the truth, shutting out the noise. Looking for ideas in a simple, ordinary life. Helping people is a mission, a passion, a privilege. Searching for the truth, shutting out the noise. Cases going cold, no new leads, no new ideas. Families needing closure, facts and justice. Searching for truth, shutting out the noise. Helping people is a mission, a passion, a privilege. Chatting with the peeps when the YouTube is going live. Searching for the truth, shutting out the noise.
Hi everyone, I'm Dom and this is my channel, DomC303. I wanted to go over the Apple Watch that Nancy Guthrie had. I don't know anything about Apple Watches. I've always owned an Android phone and I have a Fitbit, and it's very interesting the technology that Apple has not only on their phones but also on their watches. So I did a short PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to share with you today so we can go over the features and then possibly understand what the FBI gleaned from the information that they got, hopefully, from Nancy's Apple Watch. So Apple advertises that it's much more than a watch. It acts as a health tracker, fitness coach, communication device, and remote control for your iPhone. The basic features is that it does time, date, weather, calendar, alarms, stopwatches, just like our regular phones do. It uses Siri for its voice commands. It has a world clock, and it has a flashlight, which is cool for a watch because only my phone has a flashlight. So the fitness, it can count steps and calories like my Fitbit does. It tracks workouts. And it does have a GPS for mapping outdoor workouts. So motion detection of the human body. Automatic workout detection and personalized fit watch is that you can send and receive text messages from the watch, make and answer calls, read emails and respond to them. That's cool. Receive app notifications. I guess there's a walkie-talkie on some models, and FaceTime. And then you have all your wallet and payment sources from the Apple Pay app. Music and entertainment. So navigation was an interesting feature that I didn't know watches could have. It turn-by-turn directions, maps, compass. So it would be able to detect where Nancy was. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So the camera, you can view it on your iPhone and ping other Apple devices from your watch. So if she lost her phone, she could find her phone from her watch, which my Fitbit doesn't do that. And then this was interesting too, the smart home from the watch. You can lock and unlock smart doors, which we don't think she had, adjust thermostats, view security camera feeds. Interesting. And open garage door with compatible systems from her watch. So did she open her own garage door with her Apple Watch when she purportedly got home at 9:48? This was the important part, was the health monitoring for me. There's the list, and then I'm going to go through them one by one. So the heart rate monitoring, it measures your heart rate continuously throughout the day. So it displays your current heart rate, your resting heart rate, your walking average, and recovery heart rate, and sends alerts for unusually high or low heart rates if that function is enabled. So a normal heart rate is between 60 and 100 beats per minute. Normally a person with a pacemaker, they'll have, it's underneath the left part of the chest, and there are wires that get attached to different parts of the heart depending on what Nancy's medical condition was. And when the heart rate goes up too high or down too low, the pacemaker will send specific shocks to specific nodes in the heart, which allows the heart to contract and regulate that beat per minute parameter that the pacemaker was set at. And normally for my patients, it's 60. So, I mean, it'll go up a little bit, it'll go down a little bit, but when there's big swings, that's when the pacemaker will kick in and give the heart just a little teeny, hey, you contract, or hey, don't contract, to regulate it back down to 60. So if Nancy wore her watch all the time and it regulated this, I understand everybody was focused on the pacemaker for a very long time and the signal from the pacemaker, but the pacemaker app just downloads what the pacemaker is doing. I believe the Apple Watch is much more important forensically than the pacemaker app information could ever be. It'll tell us what her heart rate was all throughout that day and up until the time that the watch came off her wrist. The other function that it had that I had no idea a watch could do is that it also can do an EKG. It says that it's available on most Apple Watch models except the SE. It records a single lead ECG, which is like an EKG, in about 30 seconds. So it can detect atrial fibrillation and normal sinus rhythm. So normal sinus rhythm is your average heart beating between 60 and 100 beats per minute. Atrial fibrillation is the quivering of the upper chambers, and it's an erratic heartbeat that you get, and so it'll detect that. But I believe it should also be able to detect sinus brady, which is a heart rate below 60, and then the pacemaker would give a little shock. And then sinus tachycardia, which is a heart rate above 100, and then the pacemaker can do its thing and regulate her heart rate to go back down to 60. And then she could also print out that information from her Apple Watch to a PDF and send it to her doctor for evaluation. Blood oxygen is also an interesting feature on this watch. Fitbit doesn't have that. I have a separate ring that I wear that monitors my oxygen while I'm asleep. It'll start vibrating and buzzing when my oxygen goes below 90 because I wear a CPAP. And every now and then it does, and it buzzes, and then it wakes me up. So this is available on supported models. It measures the estimated blood oxygen saturation, useful during sleep, exercise, or rest, not intended for diagnostic medical conditions, of course. But your oxygen level should be anywhere above 90%. When you go down below 90%, especially if you're in the 80%, it can cause a lot of serious issues. It can cause anoxic brain injury, which is the lack of oxygen to the brain. And long-term low oxygen saturation levels can cause organ damage because our organs use oxygen in our blood to function properly. So what was Nancy's normal oxygen level? And if she wore the Apple Watch to bed, would it have monitored what her oxygen level was while she was asleep? I mean, did she have sleep apnea? We don't know any of that. We just know that she had a heart condition and that she had mobility condition. And then the wrist temperature is an amazing function because I didn't know watches could do that. It's available on the newer models with the temperature sensor. Measures it on the wrist, and she didn't have to worry about ovulation, but it tracks nighttime temperature trends over time. Now, as a registered nurse, I know that temperature sometimes, having a fever is one of the first signs of an elderly person, or any person, but an elderly person specifically, of having a bladder infection because they start losing sensation down there. And we'll get patients in that have raging UTIs and had no burning sensation with urination, but they had a fever. And then they had malaise, which is, feeling weak and tired and weakness. And then it turns into confusion. And that's normally when family members end up bringing their loved one to the hospital. But this, we would have been able to tell, what Nancy's normal temperature was. And that's not a big factor. I mean, I think the heart rate is the number one factor of Nancy's Apple Watch for investigative purposes, but I thought it was a cool feature for a watch. So, and then it monitors sleep. It would have monitored the time she went to bed, when she woke up, her sleep stages, and then trends over days, weeks, and months, so she could, evaluate what her sleeping patterns were. Again, we don't know. We weren't told whether she wore her watch to bed. It was supposedly on the charger, and then it was on the phone, on the floor. We don't know, but that's an excellent function that the Apple Watch has. The other features that the watch has is that it has a fall detection. So if you're wearing your Apple Watch and you fall and you have someone else on your app, they can get a notification that you fell. Now, what I researched about Apple is that they do not store any of this information on the Apple server directly. The information is stored in the Health app on the iPhone. So the Apple Watch will transmit the data to the iPhone's Health app and record it from there. So it's stored locally. It's stored on the cloud in the Health app, but Apple doesn't want people to think that they're monitoring all of their information. That was, I had looked that up earlier. So crash detection. You can also send an emergency SOS from your phone. So check-in features to let family know that you've arrived home safely. Now we have that on our Android phones. We have an app called Life 360. So everyone in the family has it. So you could do different settings on it to let people know where you are. And then I get alerts when my daughter gets home, and I get alerts when my daughter leaves, and she gets the same alerts for me when I go to work and when I come home. That way she knows not to call me while I'm at work, but she also knows she could call me on my drive home from work. And then the communications, it receives and replies to texts. It makes and answers calls. We talked about that earlier, in the emails, information from other apps, and then the FaceTime. So the question is what features did Nancy Guthrie actually have on her particular Apple Watch? We don't know. That information hasn't come out yet. And I'm curious to know why the FBI couldn't release a small morsel of information that they gleaned from that watch. So much speculation could be eliminated if we heard the words, yes, we retrieved information from Nancy's Apple Watch from her geolocation that she was home at 9:50 p.m. on January 31st. That would be great information, and I really don't think it would jeopardize the case. So did she wear it to bed? Was her watch on the charger? Was it on the floor? Was it someplace else, like the kitchen? And I just said, what information did the FBI retrieve from the watch? Guys, I really want comments below. Let me know, what do you think about what the FBI got from Nancy's Apple Watch? And why aren't they releasing any of that information to us? Not even a morsel. We'll see. And the last question, everyone, where is Nancy Guthrie? Thanks for watching the video. I'll go live on Saturday. Appreciate all of you for supporting the channel. And I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your week. And take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Chatters on YouTube Live, sharing their opinions, sharing their lives. enjoying good conversation. We are laughing and chatting and having a good time. They slide to me just to stir the room, drop a little poison and they run from the truth. Try to bait the crowd for a cheap little show, but the whole chat knows what they came here for. What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls? We won't feed that noise. What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls? We keep it moving on. Chatters get angry and frustrated, want the trolls gone, but rage is a fire and they love when it burns long. Lonely and angry, no outlet, no control. Looking for a crack, trying to steal your soul. Chatters must rise above the nuisance and chaos. Hold the line, stay calm, don't let them bait us. Pray for the ones who only know the dark. Maybe one soft word can reach a broken heart. Chatters on YouTube Live, sharing their opinions, sharing their lives. We choose peace tonight. What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls? Oh, we won't feed that noise. What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls? We keep it moving on. Praying for them trolls. Praying for them trolls. If they come with chaos, we answer with calm. Praying for them trolls. Praying for them trolls. Pray for those who are lonely. Pray for those who are lost. What about them trolls? What about them trolls? What about them trolls?